In reflecting on this feast of the Epiphany, I was asking myself, what is the best image of God, or an image of God that will best capture the spirit of the feast we are celebrating today? One of the images that stood out is a God who has very long arms, open wide, like that. A God whose love is for everyone and for all times. It is a love that is inclusive. It is not selective. It is not conditional. It is not a love that is there only when we perform well. It is a love that is consistently offered and given, even if we do not deserve it. In our first reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah, we heard of that vision of the prophet Isaiah to the people of Israel, that after their downfall, one day the glory of the Lord will shine upon them. And this glory that will shine upon them will be their source of hope. And they will not experience this hope unless they pass through this dark moment of their history as a people. So when Israel will recognize this light of Jesus, of God, shining upon them, it is not a denial of the darkness that surrounds them. As a matter of fact, they will experience the brightness of this light as they pass through this dark moment in their history. It is in being in touch with the dark side of our history, of ourselves, of our lives, that we will be able to appreciate more deeply the glory that shines before us. And Israel was made to believe that their miseries will come to an end upon the arrival of this light. And the responsorial psalm has also presented a certain vision of a leader, a king who will sustain this light to shine brightly And there are two descriptions of this king. This king should live in justice and in prudence. He cannot be an agent of light as a leader, as a king, if he will be corrupt, if he will not be just. He can be an agent of this light to shine brightly if he will be prudent in his judgments, in his decisions, to be able to arrive at wise decisions when he is caught up in dilemmas. And wise decision is measured when it promotes the common good. When goods are delivered for all, inclusively. And then the second reading, St. Paul reminds the early Christians that they are stewards of this gift of revelation, this gift of faith. And as stewards, they should guard and nurture this light, the light of faith and revelation, to shine brightly in the midst of a corrupt society. They are called to be stewards of the faith. The Gospel talks about the three Magi coming from the different corners of the world. They saw this light, this star, shining brightly. And they were so captured or captivated by such a light. And no matter how far their distances are, they were able to travel together, guided by this star, to discover the light of the world. It is the light of Christ that draws us together. Without Christ, there is division. We look at our families. If Christ is not the center of the family, there is division. In our society, we will never experience lasting peace if Christ is not the one drawing us together. And what is the sign that it is Jesus that is drawing us together despite distance and differences? The Magi shows us the indicator. Once we share our gifts, once we share our treasures, our giftedness to Jesus and to His people, that is a sure sign that we have found Jesus, the light of the world. If we have not given up anything precious to us for others, that is a sign that we have not yet found Jesus in our lives. Generosity is a gesture of welcome and happy encounter with Jesus. And it is a kind of giving that does not lead us to bankruptcy. It is a kind of giving that after we give something to others, especially the needy, we feel so enriched and fulfilled. We don't feel bankrupt. We feel so blessed. We feel there is always extra. There is always enough for us. For 2 times already, our diocese, in collaboration with Tandag Chamber of Commerce, we reach out to those victims of the recent flood. And it's very fulfilling to see people happy, receiving your donations. Many of you have shared your resources for this particular cause. And when we distributed those gifts, those donations, those goods, we did not ask whether they are Catholics or not. No. Pope Francis, in his recent social encyclical, reminded us that we are all brothers and sisters. We share the same humanity. And because of that, we are all brothers and sisters. What affects one affects everyone else. And this is the kind of spirit that we should cultivate. Inclusive love. Not just in terms of people, but in terms of history, in terms of time. Yahweh continued to love Israel despite of her infidelities and frailties. In our relationship, also in our families, there are times that children will cause frustrations to the expectations of their parents. But even then, that is not a cause and reason for us to stop loving our children. As I have been saying again and again, and I do not get tired repeating it, it is in times of our failures that we really need love to be experienced by that person. It is in our moments of crisis that love should be offered freely. The home is a place of inclusive love. It is not just a home for the good performing ones. It is also a home for those who are lost, for those who failed, for those who cause shame and embarrassment to the family. Our professions should also radiate that inclusive love for others. As a priest, as a bishop, my love is for everyone. My concern is for everyone, especially for those people who are deprived of the goods of society. We have doctors, lawyers, teachers, businessmen, and other professions who are present here. Being a lawyer is an opportunity to be inclusive. I do not choose my clients, or I even give preferential option to those clients who cannot pay. But victims of injustices. My being a doctor opens me to an inclusive love. I take good care of patients, whether they can pay or not. Whether they are good or bad, whether they are my enemies, I will take good care of them. If I am a teacher, I am not only good to those students who are performing well, but I should even devote more time to those slow learners among my class. We have opportunities to be inclusive. We have this God whose love is so inclusive. No boundaries like the virus. And Pope Francis reminds us, we should not create more walls in society. We should create more bridges. More bridges that will connect everyone, that will allow a natural flow and passage of the common good from the center to the most remote areas of our society. This is the message of the Epiphany, to bring our gifts to everyone, to share the blessings that we have received from our generous God who has blessed us in so many ways at all times. The sure sign that we have discovered and found Jesus is when we open our gifts and hand it over to the poor, to the oppressed, to those people who have no equal opportunities with the rest of the world. Saint Padre Poveda once said, and I have said this before, you do not have to be rich in order to give. You only have to be good, because a person who is good will always find something to give. May God bless our hearts.